joining us. Just time for a quick recap of the week, and we begin with the US election, or as you may know it, the Clowntown Fuck the World Shit Show 2016. This was a particularly big week for the Republican Party, with Donald Trump winning 7 states on Super Tuesday and 2 more last night. And while yesterday's wins were a little narrower, it does appear that Republican voters have, for the time being, decided not to make Donald Trump again. Hashtag make Donald Trump again. In fact, Trump's opponents spent the week seeming increasingly desperate.
He's always calling me Little Marco. And I'll admit, the guy, he's taller than me, he's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2". Have you seen his hands? They're like this. And you know what they say about men with small hands? You can't trust them.
No, that is not what they say about men with small hands. And if you can't say the word penis, don't imply the word penis, because at that point it's not even an insult, it's a Christian rock lyric. But even as primary voters embrace Trump, the Republican establishment is rejecting him like a transplanted organ, which is fitting, as Trump does resemble a kidney dropped on the floor at a supercuts. But to truly reject an organ, you need white blood cells, and the GOP called up the whitest blood cell of them all.
Now, Donald Trump tells us that he is very, very smart. I'm afraid that when it comes to foreign policy, he is very, very not smart.
OK. And that is very, very not a very good insult. But Romney wasn't alone. Prominent Republicans lined up to publicly attack their own party's frontrunner.
I'm just hopeful that we aren't faced with the possibility of having Mr. Trump as our nominee.
I cannot in good conscience vote for him, and I will not.
If we nominate Donald Trump and put him on a glide path to the nomination, Republicans will be committing an abortion on their own party, and it will be the end of the Republican Party as we know it.
Holy shit! You know they're getting desperate when they're just throwing in their favourite buzzwords. He won't just be an abortion, he'll be a Sharia law wrapped in a Benghazi-themed gay wedding. And I mean it. I'm not understating that. I mean it. But Trump, not surprisingly, Trump hit back hard at his critics with his tiny hamster-sized fists during Thursday's debate.
He referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.
That's right. Donald Trump just talked about his dick during a presidential debate. A dick which I presume looks like a Cheeto with a cheese dust rubbed on. I presume. That's a guess. But you know what? I'm glad he brought it up. Mainly because I now have an excuse to play you something that we didn't have time to include last week. Specifically, an audiobook excerpt from his ex-wife Ivana's For Love Alone, a barely fictionalised account of their marriage as read by Morgan Fairchild.
In a moment, they were on the floor, on top of the mink coat, Katrinka's legs gripping his waist as he moved deeper and deeper into her. As Adam pulled away from her, his cock fell for a moment into the valley between her legs, leaving a smear of semen on the dark silk. He smiled with satisfaction. "Now you have to keep the coat," he said.
Oh, that is horrible, although, whatever you think about that, you can't say jizzing all over your girlfriend's clothes is not presidential, OK? You can't say that. But the Republican Party wasn't just doing damage control at the national level this week. A number of local elections also threw up terrifying results. Just look at Texas, the Lone Star state, in that a Lone Star is what most people would give Texas on Yelp. This week, voters in Travis County, Texas, voted for a Republican chairman, and look who they picked.
Real anger tonight after a man many Republicans considered to be vulgar and brash just won control of their party in Travis County.
I'm not politically correct. I'm politically incorrect. I'm like Donald Trump on steroids, sweetheart. So get ready to have some fun reading my Twitter feed. Oh. For a start, that guy's overall look can only be described as guy kicked out of your gym for trying to smell women. Although, in his defence, I'll say this, he's not overselling his Twitter feed, because in just the 48 hours after his election, he actually tweeted, "I am the face of the Republican Party,
and I like boobies. Which is still nothing compared to my absolute favourite tweet of his, which read, if you Google Robert Morrow 11-inch penis confirmed, you get over 11,800,000 hits. I'm just saying. Which, for the record, is not true, because we did it and we only got 472,000 hits. Although, interestingly, if you Google Robert Morrow 1-inch penis confirmed, the results go up by 150,000. But that's not the point. That's not the point. The point is, this guy is now an actual elected official, chair of the Travis County Republican Party. This guy.
Do you think Hillary Clinton would swallow your cum, or would it be more of a Lorena Bobbitt type situation? George W. Bush is like Rick Perry. Both of them were closet homosexuals. That's my personal opinion. George Herbert Walker Bush was being provided young teen boys to have sex with. I think Barack Obama is a gay man who got married. Bill Clinton, serial rapist. Hillary Clinton, rampaging bisexual adulterer. Rick Perry, rampaging bisexual adulterer.
Yes, that all sounds appalling, but to be fair, the question he was asked was, what sounds does Ann Coulter make as she falls down the stairs? So, with that context, he's not entirely wrong. And, look, he wasn't even the only candidate to embarrass the Republican Party in Texas this week. Let me introduce you to Mary Lou Brunner, a woman who, based on her jacket, I can only assume was a member of the 1996 women's gymnastics team. Is she Kerry Strug? I think she's Kerry Strug. She's running a successful campaign for a place on the Texas State Board of Education. So let's find out some more about her.
Brennan has recently come under fire online for some passionately stated opinions she holds, including the idea that global warming was made up to promote global socialism and that President Obama paid for drug addiction in his 20s through homosexual prostitution.
How do people think that people on welfare who also have a drug habit, how do they think they pay for their drugs? Well, they steal, they prostitute themselves.
Say what you will about that woman, I would read any history textbook she had a part in creating. Wait, Teddy Roosevelt fathered an illegitimate child that was half human, half bear. Why did nobody tell me this? Education is fun, I yearn to learn. And look, the Texas State Board of Education is not known for having the least controversial personnel in the country, but she seems extreme even for them. She's previously written that the dinosaurs were on Noah's Ark, but went extinct afterward because, and I quote, they may have been babies and not able to reproduce. It might make sense to take the small dinosaurs onto the Ark instead of the ones bigger than a bus. Which is clearly scientifically wrong. The reason we don't have dinosaurs isn't because they were too small to have sex. It's because nobody fucks on a cruise. The dinosaurs were probably just too full from the buffet. Crack a book, lady. Crack a science book. Now, to their credit, Republicans were quick to distance themselves from both candidates, with the current school board member saying Brunner would be a human rain delay, and the Texas governor's office issuing the statement, Robert Morrow in no way speaks for the Republican Party or its values. But doesn't he, though? Because in this election cycle, it'd be a lot easier to argue that your party shouldn't be judged by people who spread weird Obama conspiracy theories and brag about their dicks, if that didn't also accurately describe your presumptive nominee for the presidency. It's a weird election time we're going through. So let's move on to Land's End, the clothing company so boring its name is literally synonymous with water. The Land's End catalogue has recently become the source of an unexpected scandal.
The retailer, known for glossy catalogs like this one, apologizing for what's inside the new spring issue. An interview with feminist, journalist, and political activist Gloria Steinem.
Yes, people were upset over a Gloria Steinem interview which featured such incendiary quotes as, "Dreams are bigger than goals, each person is a unique miracle, and Land's End is helping people become themselves," which is absurd. The only way Land's End helps people become themselves is by providing a visual expression of rock bottom. Because that is a puffy coat with lapels. Fucking lapels! It's a puffy blazer! If you see a loved one wearing that, don't just stand there. Comfort them. It's a cry for help. They're reaching out. Actually, What upset some Land's End customers wasn't so much Steinem's interview as one of her beliefs.
To do a feature on a pro-abortion feminist, it's like, why would you do that?
Pro-life customers promising to boycott the business are flooding the company's Facebook page.
The company apologized to customers who were offended, and it has removed Steinem from its website. Land's End says its goal was to feature people who have made a difference and not to take a political or religious stance.
Oh, come on. Apologising for the interview is taking a political stance. And if you didn't want to be religious, maybe stop making all your clothes look like they're designed for Mormon spring break. Now, in an amazing added twist, Steinem supporters are now threatening to boycott the company as well. So, I guess congratulations, Land's End. With one pointless interview, which incidentally didn't even mention abortion, you've done the impossible. You've pissed off everyone involved in the abortion debate. I don't know how you did it. But by the way, since you are apologising about things, how about apologising for this shirt designed to look like the blueprints of a sailboat? Or whatever the fuck this is. It looks like something an ER nurse would wear to a book burning. Or maybe apologise for this beige sweater vest, which, and this is a fact, you legally are not allowed to own unless you're a middle school vice principal. That's a legal fact. But I guess it does make sense that Land's End back down here, because they know if a woman truly has the right to choose, the first thing she'll choose to do is to shop somewhere else than Land's End. And now, this.
And now, people on TV mean fucking.
There's a new study out that says women are more attracted to wide-faced men.
Not to marry, though, just to...
Because...
go to Poughkeepsie, if you know what I mean.
Viagra for men, it's not just for the men, if you know what I mean.
She said they lost it having a little honeymoon fun, if you know what I mean.
The only thing that guys do of any value involving children is getting the process started, if you know what I mean.
If you're a husband who likes to help your wife out around the house, it may not pay off, if you know what I mean.
They're giving it to you, but then they're giving it to you, if you know what I mean.
He wants to sow some wild oats, if you know what I mean. Let's just say it all starts with a banana, if you know what I mean.
You have to heat it up in different ways, you know what I mean?
Why don't you just get yourself a nice dickie, if you know what I mean?
Well, I don't know what you mean.
Moving on. Our main story tonight concerns government. Sports for nerds. These days, we are all focused on the presidential race, the biggest, most prominent office in all of government. But I would like to talk about the opposite of that. One of the smallest and most obscure forms of government, special districts. That's right, tonight, we are talking about special taxing districts. So, hello, people watching for the first time because of our Trump piece, and also, I presume, goodbye. Thanks for checking in. But just so you know, special districts are small units of government with the power to take tax dollars to do one specific thing. You've probably heard of a fire district or a water district, but they can be set up for almost any purpose, and there are way more of them than you think.
Special districts over the past half century have really proliferated to the point that we have about 40,000 of them in the country now, and they account for about $100 billion of spending.
$100 billion a year. That is $16 billion more than Russia spends on its military. And when you include school districts, special districts are the most common form of local government in the country. And that's crazy. It's like finding out the highest paid athlete in the world is Harold. I mean, who the fuck is Harold? What sport does he play? Why don't people talk about this all the time? How am I only hearing about Harold now? You're making me feel a fool. Special districts are so ubiquitous and sometimes have so little accountability, states may not even know how many they have or how much they spend. A few years back, Idaho launched an investigation of special districts with objective 1 being identify how many special districts there are in Idaho. And when Kentucky investigated, its auditor found that 40% of its districts that were required to didn't even file proper budgets.
I mean, this is an extraordinary mess. As one of my good friends says, you can't make this up. $2.7 billion system of government operating because of a lack of oversight and accountability at almost every level, has been permitted to become a level of ghost government.
Yes, ghost government. And that is the shittiest idea for a ghost story I've ever heard. Aside, of course, from Ghost Dad. And that was a bad idea before context changed the way we felt about Bill Cosby having the power to walk through walls. Before then, it was a bad idea. After, it was horrifying. But if you think about it, it's a little weird in a country that talks so much about government accountability that a huge amount of our tax dollars go to fund entities that most of us know absolutely nothing about. You may not even know how many districts you are living in right now.
A school district may overlap with a park district, a water district, a sewer district, and so on, such that it wouldn't be at all uncommon for one person to be finding themselves within the boundaries of 10 or more of these districts.
That's right. Think of a special district like a cult. It can take your money, and you may not even be aware that you are in one. Although it is worth remembering, in a special district, allowing the leader to impregnate you is not mandatory, no matter what the guy in charge of the library district says. No matter what he says with his words or eyes. And if you're thinking, well, look, what difference does it make what districts I'm in? Well, it can actually make a big difference.
One person that we found paid $1,000 as part of an irrigation special district that he lives in north central Phoenix. His neighbor, literally across the street, is not a part of that district. Their special district bill was $7. $1,000 versus $7.
Look, the only people who should be paying $1,000 more than their neighbours across the street are the arseholes who cover every square inch of their house with Christmas decorations. They should be taxed, and then they should be imprisoned, and then they should be told their lights were better last year because it's that one that would hurt them the most. That's the one that would sting. And it is important to note here, in theory and often in practice, having small entities with a single purpose can be a great idea. Take Litchfield, New Hampshire. In 2007, they chose to create a mosquito control district to, you know, control mosquitoes. It's run by two men who, as you will see from an amazing YouTube video of one of their public meetings, are almost heartbreakingly conscientious, regardless of the fact that there is no one else in the room.
Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Chair will call the roll. Acting Vice Chair, Mr. Raccio.
Present.
And I'm here. All members are present.
Come on! You have got to admire their dedication to the rules. These two men are so scrupulous, they would sit at a broken red traffic light for 6 hours in the middle of the night. Red is red, we live in a civilized society. Red is red, we stay. In fact, they ran that 43-minute meeting so meticulously, they even took input from the public with predictable results.
Any members of the public wishing to speak? Seeing and hearing none?
Look, I guess when you're a member of a ghost government, it's only natural your meetings are going to be attended only by the ghost public. Now, that is the best case scenario, and many special districts are like that, chugging along just fine with no major problems. But some, like the Isaacson Municipal Utility District in Texas, are not. Because an audit recently discovered $70,000 in losses and that the district billed residents for water with a disturbing consistency.
We're not all professional accountants or managers. We may not have looked at things as closely as maybe we should have.
iMud has been billed for 13,721,200 gallons of water every year for the last 6 years. Rain or drought or weather, no change, same number.
Now, no charges have been filed there, but that level of consistency is weird. The only time the exact same amount of water should appear in a document year after year is in Shamu's rider. Yeah, Shamu gets 13.7 million gallons of water in his tank at all times, and not a drop less. He's a fucking artist. I'm obviously kidding. You can keep him in a wading pool if you want, and if you want to fuck his blowhole, that'll be an extra 20. The point is, thanks for visiting SeaWorld. But in Kentucky, The lack of supervision led to outright corruption, with over $100,000 being fantastically misspent by one former assistant fire chief.
The report claims the Garrett Volunteer Fire Department in Floyd County used taxpayer money to buy things like flat-screen televisions, chewing tobacco, and fireworks. Investigators say they also found hundreds of pornographic videos on department electronics.
All right. Porn and chewing tobacco are obviously inappropriate, but you know what really upsets me the most there? Fireworks. They're a fire department. That's like hearing EMTs have been using their budget to stage scissor races. They're your natural enemy. But that behaviour was nothing compared to what happened in a fire district in Rhode Island.
You won't believe the undercover video we gathered on the man in charge. We spotted him drinking during the day, then driving the fire department vehicle back to work. We even have him taking the public safety vehicle to party up on Federal Hill, drinking and apparently smoking marijuana.
This is you smoking what looks to be pot.
Cigar, maybe.
You then share the cigar with your friends there?
I don't know.
That's a cigar?
Yes, it is.
You know, I gotta tell you, Chief, no one's gonna buy that.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure they'll definitely buy it. That's a cigar, just like that's flour for when you want to bake one tiny cookie. That's honey for my tea. I use a very specific amount. And that's just some quartz I keep laying around. I love quartz. And look, corruption is not unique to special districts. There are clearly problems in all other forms of government as well. But when special districts only have one job, it makes it all the more noticeable when things go wrong. Take Evergreen Park, Illinois. The county it's in has 4 different mosquito abatement districts to prevent the spread of West Nile. So it had to be humiliating when this happened.
The mayor of West Suburban Evergreen Park came down with West Nile virus.
The mayor got fucking West Nile! Look, no one is expecting a 0% failure rate here, but if you're surrounded by that many mosquito abatement districts, shouldn't there at least be agents willing to take a mosquito for him? Come on! And one of the most interesting ways that special districts are different from any other form of government is how they can be created seemingly out of thin air. For instance, in Conroe, Texas, a company was hoping to create a new neighbourhood on undeveloped land. They wanted to form a special district which could issue bonds. Now, to do this, the law required a vote. But remember, no one lived there yet. So guess what they did?
When Tim Kellerman saw someone installing a mobile home next to his house recently, he asked them what's going on.
He told me it was none of my business.
This man and his wife moved in on Monday and signed a 9-month lease with Stingray Services. After that, he said they're moving out. They're the only 2 people who can vote on $500 million worth of bonds for the new housing project.
2 people voting for $500 million of bonds and then leaving. It's as if in The Lion King, Simba's father looked out over the plains and said, "Son, someday this will all be someone else's problem," and they both fucked off and never came back. And that whole process is perfectly legal. In fact, this wasn't the only place where Stingray Services provided what they called turnkey voter trailer election services. They once even advertised on Craigslist with an ad reading, "Eligible tenants will vote in and serve as election officials for the election which takes place in the home." Oh, that's right. You're not just the only voters, you're the election officials and your trailer is the polling station. It makes you wonder why they didn't just throw in some bullshit ballot initiatives just for fun. Oh, and on the motion that Jenna start cleaning out her fucking hairbrush because it's starting to look like we have a cat, we seem to be tied 1-1. And once a special district is created, you can be pretty sure no one is going to be watching what you do. Because remember that New Hampshire video? When we found it on YouTube, it had 0 views. 0! Meaning those 2 guys themselves didn't even watch it. That is anti-viral as videos go. And voter accountability is pretty unlikely too. One county in New York found turnout rates for some special district elections could be as low as 1.8%, which might be because that county held, on average, one special district election every 10.9 business days, with not a single one taking place on election day, which just seems inherently suspicious. Think about it. It would be a bit of a red flag if someone in your neighbourhood offered children candy every 11 days, but never on Halloween. It would give you pause for thought. And even if the state government does investigate, special districts may try to blow them off. When that Kentucky auditor started asking his state's districts about making their information available to the public, he got some pretty unhelpful responses.
Here's one, direct quote, by the way. We didn't take any liberties with these. Quote, "This contains information the public is not entitled to know." This is a good one. "We don't want to fill this out because there are too many crackpots in the world." And my favorite, "Well, we'd just rather the public contact us directly to gain information so we know who's asking."
What? You get the sense their preferred mode of contact would be an email to fake email address at fuckoff.gov. And by the way, if after hearing that, some Kentuckians wanted to shut a district down, they might not be able to because, as that auditor wrote, many types of districts may continue to exist because there is not a process for them to be dissolved. There's no way to break them up. They're like styrofoam packing peanuts or the enduring friendship of Jimmy Fallon and Justin Timberlake. They'll be with us until the end of time. Now, to be fair, some states are pushing to reform special districts. California, for instance, has made them far more transparent in recent years, and a Special Districts Association in San Diego even launched a competition for school children to create a 1-minute video educating the public about what's so special about special districts. The deadline was Tuesday, and it had a $1,500 top prize. And the reason I know that is we entered with some local school kids, and this is the result.
Today's top story, special districts. What's so special about them?
Special districts are smaller governments that collect taxes to handle one specific service,
like fight fire, or provide water, or buy fireworks or smoke cigars. Special districts are special because they can receive little oversight.
They're sometimes called ghost governments. I used to be afraid of ghosts, but now I'm afraid of girls.
Special districts can also be very easy to create.
Sometimes the only people voting for them are 2 people in a trailer in the middle of nowhere. Maybe 2 people in a trailer in an empty field. Sounds like my younger brother. You know it's true, Duckland. You weren't wanted. Sometimes special districts aren't so special, though.
Like when the mayor of a village in a county with 4 mosquito spraying districts came down with the West Nile virus.
Come on! That would barely be acceptable if your town were near the actual Nile. A river you think so little about, you don't even realize that's not the Nile. This is the Nile.
But perhaps the most special part about special districts is how hard it is to get rid of them.
They're almost impossible to destroy, like Wolverine. Even Superman couldn't destroy Wolverine. Though obviously they would never meet because that's crossing universes.
So to recap, special districts take our money and do whatever they want with it, with little to no consequences.
When I grow up, I want to be a special district. Yay! And now this.
That's our show. Thank you so much for watching. See you next week. Good night!
I used to be afraid of ghosts, but now I'm afraid of girls.
I used to be afraid of ghosts, but now I'm afraid of girls. Even Superman couldn't destroy Wolverine. Come on, that would barely be acceptable if your town were near the actual Nile.
That's not the Nile. This is the Nile, right here.
You know it's true, Duckland. Duckland, you weren't wanted.